about it. I apologize. I'm going to go talk to some.
In the meantime, while he checks on that, I challenge you to a dance duel.
I can't hear you. We're up?
Oh.
Okay. No.
So apparently we are up.
Hey.
Good morning.
Good to see you.
So Matt is walking through an invisible wall right now. Oh, careful, careful now.
That's not true.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the curtain. It's like the Tonight Show.
But it's like flair. You got to show. Oh yeah. Look at that. Look at that.
The Tonight Show.
It is. Ooh, ruffles.
Yeah.
Riding on the coattails.
Yeah.
I like it.
That's the story of my career.
No, we're riding on yours.
Welcome to 9 News Now on the pluses on a Tuesday.
On May the 4th.
May the 4th be with you.
Yes.
And for all the Star Wars fans out there, obviously you get that. And for all the non-Star Wars fans out there.
Just happy Tuesday.
Tuesday, which just is boring, right?
If you're from New Orleans, happy 504 Day. Celebrate with beignets, with cafe au laits, all the things.
All the things.
Yes.
A big old Bloody Mary from French Market somewhere.
All of
do your thing. You do you.
Yes.
You do you on May the 4th. Unfortunately, May the 4th, probably going to bring a little bit of active weather coming our way, and want to let you know right now as we stand here in the studio as our other studio is still being worked on.
Yes.
We are getting ready for Steve Caparotta at 9:30. He's going to be here with you, kind of laying it all out because it's coming a little bit later on today.
Steve made a really good point this morning, is that some of you might be asking, well, we're always under severe weather.
Yeah.
How do you know whether to take it seriously? Here's a good just point to go by here. Always take it seriously because you really never know what it's going to do. A forecast is exactly that, a forecast. So depending on where you live, it could be very different from your friends just down the road. Yeah. So you just want to make sure you and your family are prepared so you're not caught off guard. And that's why our First Alert Weather team is preparing you all morning. Steve was walking you through that timing. It's looking like the afternoon, evening is when it might get a little bit dicey. And
as we were looking at future radar, it looked like that 5:30. And that's not to say you might not get a few showers here and there, kind of out in front of this line. But that line, like 5:36, 6:30, that kind of thing, looked like that line passing through Baton Rouge and then moving on. It looked like moving on pretty quickly, which would be great for the rain totals, right? But Steve was talking about it. Why are we so active right now? Well, you're just stuck in one of those active patterns. I mean, raise your hands if you want to get back to the out of nowhere gully washers in the middle of the summer afternoon that just kind of pop up. Hello, hello. That'd be great. Meanwhile, we don't have to deal with a 1 out of 5, a 2 out of 5, a 3 out of 5 on the severe weather scale. We're just stuck in that pattern right now.
Yeah, Louisiana spring for you. That's why Steve is actually going to be right back here in about 15 minutes talking about an explainer. There's no limit on this. He's going to walk you through this. It's a great time to see exactly what we're expecting, what you need to know.
All of it. There are some opportunities if you get out today and you want to. We're talking COVID-19, the vaccines, today and actually the rest of the week. There's an interesting one, the Mall, Louisiana.
Yes, so you can get a shot while you shop. Poppin' keys.
That is a lot.
Yes, because it's happening at the mall.
That's kind of cool.
Get yourself an Auntie Anne's pretzel, go get yourself a candle from Bath & Body Works, then go get yourself a COVID-19 vaccine, a Pfizer vaccine. I've already mapped it out. I've already got vaccinated, but now I want a pretzel and a candle.
Uncanny, because you just mapped out my map for Mother's Day. For like Mother's Day.
Wow.
Which is right around the corner.
Same wavelength.
It's like the same thing. Have you been talking about, have you reading, can you see my like notes or something?
I'm just saying.
That's exactly what I'm going to be doing.
Great minds think alike.
A pretzel and a candle.
Pretzel and a candle and a vaccine.
My wife won't like it. But she'll be like, is this it? You stupid man. You stupid man.
At least you're going to get things. That is nice. It is a thought that counts.
All I want, just you deal with the kids. I'm going to disappear into the room for a minute.
Ooh, Mama deserves that.
Yeah.
Let her do her. Yes.
And then you open the door to see how she's doing, and the window's open, and she's not there anymore. And you're like, uh-oh.
She's gone.
Wait a minute.
She went away with Fabio.
Is that just too much?
Wow, we have weaved quite the story.
We did.
Yes.
Quite the story that we weaved.
Yes.
But all those great opportunities, and when you talk about shot in a shop, they're obviously doing this for a particular reason. You go out to a mall to get to a certain age group, trying to get to 16 and ups right now that are eligible for Pfizer, but the conversation right now is about the 12 to 15s as well.
You make a good point. Pfizer's sharing some of that data from their labs, saying they are trying to see if those vaccines, if they're specifically, are going to be, maximally efficient for children 12 and up.
Right.
That's a really big deal. That's
huge.
A whole other age group.
I got 2 of them.
Exactly, that qualify for being vaccinated and beginning to get their vaccine series.
That could be, FDA could give that emergency approval by next week, I guess we'll see. So anyway, there's some opportunities. COVID-19 section of the 9 News app or WAFB.com, all of it right there, including the shot in a shop.
Shot in a shop.
Pretty cool.
Yes, indeed.
Did you watch any of the sportings yesterday?
Yes, because we've been talking about this doubleheader again for LSU softball. So I caught a bit of the beginning of it, and I was like, you know what? This is looking good. Game 2 of the series, game 1 of the day.
Right.
Looking pretty good for them.
It was a shutdown performance in the circle for LSU, almost. The opponent had a heck of a ball game, literally threw the first one hitter since 2017 for the Tigers, taking down the top 10 team in University of Arkansas. And then game 2 of the day, game 3 of the series rolled around. Hogs got the better of them, but it was a heck of a ride already for LSU. Far from done. They still got a big weekend to come to close out the regular season.
Yes, indeed. Was it Mississippi that comes to town?
I think it's Auburn.
Auburn. Whew. That goes to show. I'm losing things. Auburn! Auburn is coming to town.
So yeah, get ready for that. The last regular season weekend.
Yes, so we'll look forward to that, and hopefully that weather clears out for them to come to town to play at Tiger Park.
It kind of looks like it.
Good.
It looks like it's going to be a good weekend.
Yeah.
Baseball as well. They're going to be playing Auburn as well. They just came off a game yesterday at the Box with Southern. So our local teams meeting at the Box together.
Crosstown Classic.
Crosstown Classic.
Yes.
You must be like a Chicago Cubs, Chicago White Sox fan.
Exactly. Proud.
Back in the day, exactly. Proud of it. So
yes.
LSU baseball, obviously they're going to continue on this weekend. Jaguar baseball continuing on this weekend.
Yeah.
Their regular season comes to a close actually a lot quicker than LSU baseball. So we'll dig into that a little bit more as the weekend gets closer. But yeah, it looks like it's going to be a good weekend for some games.
Lots to look forward to after this weather front.
Yeah.
We can look forward to sports once we get there. Yeah. Yes. Yes, indeed.
All right. So places you can find us.
Yes.
WAFB Plus. Obviously Apple, right?
Apple.
Roku.
Roku.
Roku TV.
Yes.
Some kind of Fire Stick.
Amazons.
Exactly. All the Amazons. Are you a Prime member?
I am.
Me too.
Recently.
Yeah,
just
really?
Recently. Yes.
My wife's been like a Prime member for like forever.
Elena's smart. That's why. She's a smart woman.
I thought so, and then she married me. But she's ridiculously intelligent. But yeah, there's just boxes like all the time.
It's convenient, and I tell you what, when they make it easy, 2 days it's at your door. It's easy. Now they got all these shows, movies. You can stream WAFB. You can watch Johnny A at 10 a.m. for free.
Which is going to happen this morning.
Come on.
10 o'clock this morning.
Yes,
Asian Nation right here on WAFB Plus.
Yes, it is.
Kind of cool.
He is talking with a 3-time lung transplant recipient.
Right.
3 times. That's how she is living.
It's amazing.
Yes.
Are you? We were talking about it earlier. Are you on your driver's license? You got the little red heart for organ donor? Me too.
I love the idea of being able to give somebody life.
Absolutely. What am I going to take this with me?
Exactly.
Clearly don't need it anymore.
Exactly.
And so if there's anything healthy on me, have at it. You want a pinky? We'll talk.
Ooh.
I don't know what it's good for. Just balance out the hand.
But that's the thing. That's one of the myths. There's a lot of uncertainty. People just don't know what happens when you become an organ donor. So he's actually dispelling some of those myths today.
Look at Johnny.
How convenient.
I mean, don't look at him. But look at Johnny.
Johnny's cute.
He kind of is.
Yeah.
He's like a little, little cherub.
Cherub. Yeah. What a compliment.
Is it?
Yeah.
Is it?
Cherub?
I don't know if
I think that's endearing.
That might be.
Yeah.
All right, so there you go. Coming up at 10 o'clock right here at WAP Plus, Asian Nation. He'll learn you a few things.
Learn us a few things.
There you go.
I love it. Come back tomorrow,
yes,
1
please.
o'clock. Jacques is talking for Jacques Talk.
Yeah.
And then Kylie's coming back at 3 p.m. Friday to round out your weekend in Louisiana.
Make sure that phone is charged and have it by your side just in case. In case. But again, Dr. Steve Caparotta going to let you know what today might be looking like in about less than 6 minutes.
7 minutes.
Exactly
6 minutes.
Right. He'll be with you right here.
Yes.
Be safe, everybody. Stay as dry as you can.
Thanks for joining us.
Curtain. Curtain.
Oh.
Curtain. Curtain. Bye.
That's fun.
I didn't want to be presumptuous and just go do it. Last year I didn't get enough.
I heard the swishy sound. That was fun.
Swish.
Swish. He said curtain, curtain.
Curtains.
Curtains. That's a fun curtain.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Meteorologist Steve Caparotta here in the WAFB First Alert Storm Center. Obviously, we've been talking a lot about this developing severe weather threat today, so we're going to walk you through what we know, what we don't know at this point. And if you're with me on the morning show, I talked a little bit about how I thought none of our models was really handling the pattern all that well, and we've already seen evidence of that this morning with a few storms firing really before any of the guidance had shown. So that's where I'm going to start out, is here on First Alert Doppler radar. You can see a couple storms now firing between Laplace and New Orleans, but closer to Baton Rouge. Got a fairly hefty storm out over the basin just west of Plaquemine right now. At times that's shown some evidence of maybe producing some hail, and in fact, give me a second. I'm going to turn on our hail tracking product and we'll get a look, see if much is being detected with that. Where'd it go? Give me just 1 second to find it. There it is. So here's a look at our hail tracker. If you can make out a little blotch of gray showing up out west of Plaquemine, that would be potentially some small hail showing up. So keep an eye out around Plaquemine. That storm's kind of cycling in and out. So we could see some hail out of that one as it kind of moves off to the east-northeast and moving into southern parts of Baton Rouge here within the next 20 to 30 minutes. So already a storm here impacting parts of the area. You can see another one that was in northern Iberville Parish tending to fizzle out as it moved into West Baton Rouge. It's kind of a complex pattern. We do have what we call a cap in the atmosphere in place right now. That's where you've got a little bit of a warmer layer up above the surface, and that kind of puts a lid on things, but sometimes storms can break through that. We do think that cap, that lid, will erode through the day. It'll become easier for storms to develop into the afternoon. Pretty quiet up near north of the state line so far this morning. We take you out to the west, and this is the other thing that I think the models are struggling with. Maybe kind of a couple of different areas of storms that develop through the morning hours into the early afternoon, and just how those kind of congeal and how they track going forward. That's what the models are struggling with. But we're going to keep an eye on this cluster back here in East Texas as that moves eastward for potentially impacting some of us into the afternoon. The other thing is there have been some storms firing up around Jackson, Mississippi this morning, another area that was not depicted well by the model. So again, that's why forecast confidence is not overly high this morning. The models really struggling to latch onto the pattern. Now, a little after 8:30 this morning, about an hour ago, the Storm Prediction Center highlighted this area for a potential watch being issued, and they said an 80% chance of a watch being issued. And the area they highlighted did extend down into parts of southeast Louisiana, but moments ago, at least a few minutes ago, they did put out a tornado watch for parts of Mississippi and Alabama, and they have chosen not to extend that into our viewing area. So for right now, we are not under a tornado or severe thunderstorm watch. The green is a flash flood watch, but they're thinking the more significant severe weather threat for now is up into parts of Mississippi and Alabama. So a little bit of good news on that front. And then where we were seeing some other storms developing back here in East Texas, there is a severe thunderstorm watch that runs through 1 o'clock this afternoon. So again, just emphasizing no severe weather watches here locally. We have a flash flood watch there in green, but a tornado watch up to our north and northeast, severe thunderstorm watch out to our west, nothing locally at the moment. Here's a closer look at the flash flood watch. Weather Service put this out a little bit after 4 o'clock this morning, and it basically includes Metro Baton Rouge to the north and east. The Weather Service was talking about the potential of 1 to 3 inches of rainfall, maybe some locally higher amounts. I'm not overly concerned about the flood potential. Probably if we did get a little bit of flooding, the threat a little bit greater near and especially north of the state line. But I think rain totals are going to be manageable for most of us. We'll keep an eye on that. Now, there is some potential. There's a cold front moving in, and that front may be slowing down at some point later on today, tonight, as it's moving through the area, and that could allow for a brief period where storms are kind of training, moving over the same areas, and we could kind of overachieve on the rainfall in some spots. But as I said, I think that's not a huge concern, not a zero concern, it's not a huge concern, just something we need to pay attention to. And the Weather Prediction Center is highlighting that threat as well. This is not the severe weather outlook, this is the flood risk. And so they've got a 2 out of 4 flood risk, a slight risk of flooding here for much of our viewing area. Closer to the coast, it's a 1 out of 4 marginal risk. And then you'll note as you get farther up into Mississippi and Alabama here in red, they do have a higher risk of flooding, a 3 out of 4 moderate risk. And I do indeed think that's the case. The threat for some heavy rain, probably the threat for the heaviest rain is going to be a little bit north and northeast of most of us. Now, this is the severe weather outlook from the Storm Prediction Center. This was updated just before 8 o'clock this morning. No major changes were made at that point in time, really from what they put out yesterday afternoon. So as it stands right now, just north of Lafayette, right on through Baton Rouge to about Hammond and northward in orange, that's a 3 out of 5 enhanced risk of severe weather. From Lafayette to the south side of Baton Rouge into New Orleans in yellow, that's a 2 out of 5 slight risk. And then along the coast in green, that's a 1 out of 5 marginal risk. So you get the idea. It's the severe weather threat. There's kind of a gradient. A greater threat the farther north you go, a lower threat the closer you get to the coast. And you'll be able to see that here in a moment as I show you on Future Radar a couple of different products. Now, as we break down the severe weather threat in terms of specific severe weather types, far and away today, the greatest concern for many stronger storms is going to be damaging winds. And what you'll note is along and north of the state line here in southwest Mississippi, kind of the pinkish purple magenta shade, the Storm Prediction Center, it's a pretty big number. They do have a 45% chance of damaging winds. That's a 45% chance within 25 miles of a point. So if you took let's take Macomb for instance, and we drew a 25-mile radius circle around Macomb, that would represent a 45% chance of damaging winds occurring somewhere in that circle. It doesn't mean everybody gets hit, okay? But as we look at the map as a whole, extend that farther south, so kind of the southern edge of that enhanced risk, that 3 out of 5 from just north of Lafayette to Baton Rouge to Hammond, they've got a 30% chance of damaging winds within 25 miles of a point, where we have sort of the 2 out of 5 slight risk, a 15% chance of damaging winds, and then along the coast, a 5% chance. So again, that kind of illustrates, number one, damaging winds are the greatest threat from any stronger storms today. Number two, potential is highest the farther north you go and much lower as you get closer to the coast. As we look at the hail probabilities, here in yellow, at least a 15% chance of hail occurring within 25 miles of a point. And that really includes a good chunk of our viewing area up in the southwest Mississippi, a 5% chance closer to the coast. And then the tornado probabilities are lower. So you see the ranking there, damaging winds most likely, followed by hail, and then tornadoes. Tornado probabilities low, but certainly not zero. So basically from north of Lafayette through Baton Rouge to Hammond northward, a 5% chance or so of a tornado touching down within 25 miles a point. So what does that mean? If you take a given point, a given house, your probability is even much lower than 5%. But we take note of this because even that 5%, that's much higher than we'd have on most days throughout the course of a year. And then in green, that's a 2% chance of a tornado touching down within 25 miles of a point. All right, let's give you a look at a couple of model perspectives now. The models, every run that comes in a little bit different. Really since yesterday, this has been the case. Now, I got into work this morning, about 3:30 this morning. I'm reviewing some of the guidance, and a couple of models I was looking at, the HRRR behind me. I'm going to show you the graph in a minute. And at least for one run, they were in pretty good agreement. And I thought, okay, maybe we're finally starting to converge on an idea. And then shortly thereafter, they started to diverge again. So we'll give you a look at that. So here's the HRRR. Note that it's not really picking up on the storms that we know are ongoing right now. Now, it's only a few here in South Louisiana, but it's not really showing anything. So again, model's kind of struggling and not even really capturing. It's got a little bit of the activity up around Jackson, but it's not capturing the extent of what's going on right now. So we have to take all of these with a grain of salt. But at lunchtime, it shows storms increasing just to our north and northwest, and then also increasing with that cluster back here in East Texas that I was showing you. As we advance it out in time, here we are at 3 o'clock. It shows that one cluster kind of starts out in central Louisiana, progressing eastward, especially along the state line. And then here comes the second cluster out of East Texas into West Louisiana. So that's at 3 o'clock. So as we get into the afternoon, a lot of our guidance is suggesting at least through mid-afternoon, the greatest potential of severe weather is going to be near and north of the state line. And then as we advance it later into the afternoon, here we are at 5 o'clock. The HRRR does drop some of that activity southward, closer to the interstate corridor, and then has it shifting eastward. Here we are at 7 o'clock this evening, and then we advance it to 10 o'clock. And note, it does show potentially still a few more showers and storms maybe developing behind that initial wave, but I do think that initial wave is going to be our primary threat for severe weather, even if we do get a little more activity later on tonight. We'll keep an eye on that, but you can see here at 1 a.m. a few more additional showers and storms showing up on the model. Now, contrast that with the graph model. Again, here's the graph depicting right now, and it doesn't have anything locally, right? And we know from current radar we've got some stuff, so the model's struggling to capture what's going on right now. The graph kind of showing the storms in East Texas racing off to the east. So here we are at 1 o'clock, and it's got some fairly nasty looking cells embedded within this line, and you can see it brings a bit of a line into the metro area by 3 o'clock. So earlier than what the HRRR shows, and really more of a north to south orientation in that line, whereas the HRRR is more west to east. So you get the idea what I'm talking about. There's just not much agreement. So what we've got, I think, as I've looked at this, is we're really going to have two separate storms of clusters developing to our west and northwest, and then the models just struggle on how those evolve with time. We're confident we'll get a cluster probably to our north and a cluster to our west, but how those evolve through the remainder of this morning into the afternoon is kind of to be determined. And what gets tricky with stuff like that is that as these storms fire, they kind of create their own boundaries. They influence the atmosphere around them on a small scale, and that's why you can get some different solutions like that, and it can be difficult to forecast how it's going to evolve. But ultimately, the takeaway should be, for many of us, by mid-afternoon, we need to be more prepared for potential active storms in the area mid to late afternoon, lingering into the evening. So that's 3 o'clock on the graph. It keeps that line racing eastward 5 o'clock from now Houma, New Orleans up to Slidell. And then on the backside of it at 7 o'clock doesn't really, you remember the HRRR kind of keeps some stuff going into the evening and late tonight. The graph brings that one wave through and is done. That's it. In fact, shows some clearing showing up. So just not a whole lot of agreement there. Here's what the Weather Prediction Center put out in terms of the rainfall outlook. This was their overnight forecast for the next 2 days. So I know it's probably a little hard to see the different colors if you're watching from home, but basically from Lafayette to Morgan City to Houma, they've got a ½ inch of rain or so. Then you go from, say, New Roads to Baton Rouge, down to Laplace to near New Orleans, about 1 inch. And then where you get more of these purplish shades up near north of the state line, 2 inches or more. So certainly rain amounts like that would be manageable, ½ inch to 2 inches of rain, right? And those are what we think will happen on average. Why the Weather Service went ahead and put out that flash flood watch, A, is just to be err on the side of caution, but B, as we've seen with a couple of the recent rain events, while average rain totals like this can happen and would be manageable, you can still get localized hot spots where you might get 3, 4, 5 inches of rain, and then that would be a little more problematic. Even though I don't think we're going to have major flooding really anywhere. That's why we need to keep an eye on it. Here are the model forecasts focus on Baton Rouge, and what a range. You know, you get almost nothing from some of these models to over 1 inch, but you don't see anything showing up terribly big. And so that's why we feel pretty good about the flood threat not being all that high. But the models, again, they're struggling to capture what is going on right now. All right, here's a live look from our Sky 9 camera. We're starting to see some of the dark clouds, a little bit of that rain that's moving in to the south side of Baton Rouge, kind of on the background here of downtown downtown Baton Rouge. It's been very muggy outside this morning. 81 degrees at the airport, feels like 86. A dew point is 74. That's more typical of something we'd see, you know, in the heart of summer, June, July, August. It's a little bit early to see dew points that high. It means there's a lot of moisture in the air. So there's certainly no shortage of moisture to work with today's showers and storms. It's really just how are those storm clusters going to evolve with time. And then we've got, you know, some of these features like that lid on the atmosphere. How quickly does that erode? We start to get into some of the real dirty details, the technical details, as we see how this plays out. Most of us now in the low 80s, one of the warm spots, Gonzales at 83. So today's highs in the upper 80s. Storms likely this afternoon into this evening. Could be a few lingering showers into the overnight, but for most of us, rain's probably ending overnight, except those of you closer to the coast. Rains may linger a bit longer, and in fact, if you are closer to the coast, could even be a couple of lingering showers during the day tomorrow, but most of us dry out tomorrow, not as warm, a high around 80. It'll turn into a decent Cinco de Mayo for most of us, and then Thursday through Saturday looks like a run of some really nice weather, and then Sunday into early next week, some rain chances returning, but the muggies are also going to be back. Notice our morning lows back into the 70s, highs in the upper 80s, so a little bit of a break Thursday, Friday, Saturday from the rains, from the humidity, from the really warm weather, and then Sunday into next week, it will be back. All right, that's pretty much what I had to share with you guys. So let me take a peek down, see if you have any questions, and I will try to answer those for you. And I will come back to live radar in a second, just give you an update on that. Barbie saying, so is it going to be bad? So, you know, I think we kind of walked through the threats. Yeah, certainly where we, you know, the potential is there for a few strong to severe storms this afternoon. Damaging winds is the primary concern. The way the atmosphere is set up today, we think that's the most likely threat. Hail could be in the mix too, and then it appears to be a significantly lower threat of tornadoes, although not zero. The greatest threat of severe weather is going to be near and north of the interstates. So near north of I-10, I-12, and especially probably a little higher near north of the state line. And then if you're watching from closer to the coast, your threat is much lower. So if you compared, say, Houma to Macomb, the threat is much higher up around Macomb than it would be in a place like Houma today. Let's see what else. Few comments. All right, I'm not seeing many questions roll in so far. That's good. So hopefully answered most of what you guys needed to hear. As a promise, before I wrap it up, I will pull up live radar just one more time. Take a look at that storm, or those couple of storms we were tracking. Give me a second, a lot of graphics to scroll through to get back to it. So here we go with radar coming back up. Yeah, so it looks like that storm that was headed into Baton Rouge is kind of fizzling out. So what's probably happening here, remember I was telling you about that lid in the atmosphere. So how do we know there's a lid in the atmosphere? Well, twice a day, weather balloons get released. From the closest to us is in Slidell. One gets released over at Lake Charles, then up in Shreveport. We get what's called from that a sounding. That gives us a look at the temperature, the humidity, the wind, several other things from the ground way up in the sky, 10 miles or more often. And when we got that sounding out of Slidell this morning, we were able to see the atmosphere was still kind of stable here locally. There's still that lid. So we had a storm that developed on the west side of the basin where it's probably just a little more unstable, might have broken through that lid, that cap. And now as it got into Baton Rouge, probably probably still a little more stable here around Metro Baton Rouge, and that storm is fizzling out. You can see a few storms hanging on around New Orleans, the Lake Pontchartrain, but nothing major at this point. So that's the good news, but we're going to have to keep an eye on, see how this progresses on into the afternoon. So as I showed you with the model forecast, we think storm chances go on up by mid to late afternoon. All right. Do you know why the models aren't capturing what is going on currently? That must make it very hard to forecast. Yeah, it does make it hard to forecast. And, you know, I kind of touched on this a little bit, Stacy, so let me widen out the radar view again. I don't have an absolute answer to that question, but part of what I think is going on, Stacy, is number one, we think there are going to be two separate storm clusters developing here. We've already got one back here in East Texas, especially north of Houston. Starting to see some showers breaking out around Alexandria. I think these are going to increase. And then it's just differences in how the models handle those two clusters. As these storms develop, they start influencing the environment around them. And so that can change things quickly. And so how the models handle each of these clusters is really kind of influencing what happens later on in the day. And that's why there's still some uncertainty. You know, it's not quite, we sometimes talk about the butterfly effect in weather. You know, a butterfly flapping its wings can really have cascading impacts through time. Well, as you get a storm or two developing, if that's not represented well in the model, that means the errors can compound or get worse with time. And so if they're not capturing the now really well, that's going to make it harder to forecast the afternoon. We've already seen so far this morning they've struggled a bit, and that's making it a bit tougher. But we can see this cluster in East Texas at least is looking pretty healthy. So we'll be tracking that closely. All right, gang, I'm not seeing much more rolling in, so with that, we'll probably go ahead and wrap it up. Don't forget, if you don't have it, download our weather app, wafb.com/weather app. For all the watches, warnings as they come out, interactive radar, everything you need right there in the palm of your hand. Jeff Morrow will be on air at noon today. He'll be covering 4, 5, and 6. Filling in for Jay on the 6th. Jay will be back in at 10 o'clock tonight, I believe. But stay with us. We'll get you through any threat that develops this afternoon and this evening. And looking forward to some quieter weather arriving tomorrow and lasting through at least Saturday. Enjoy that.